Peter picked it up and he's like, nah, straight away and puts it back down again. So why Leica lenses? Hey guys, welcome. Hello from Poland. I'm currently on the road with a fellow YouTuber and fashion photographer, Peter Coulson. And so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to ask him why he's now using Leica, or Leica and Hasselblad rather than just Hasselblad. Today we're talking about why Leica for fashion photography. I've got 10 questions to ask Peter, and we'll hopefully bust some myths and see why Peter decided on Leica. Let's get into the video. Peter, cool. Thanks for accepting my invitation to do this video.
That's all right. Thanks for letting me drink Corona while we're doing it.
Yeah, I'm on water, Peter's on beer, so spot the cool one. So, as a studio photographer, if anybody knows your work, you obviously shoot models like this, photos like this. You used to use Hasselblad H6, which is medium format, and then I'll let you probably explain the Hasselblad thing, but you were looking for another camera, so you decided to go for Leica. Can you explain why you went for Leica over, say, Sony or, say, medium format Fuji or anything else?
Yeah, predominantly I still love my H6. It's still my favourite camera in the world. I use it a lot more in the studio and controlled light environments. I don't mind using it outside, except I'm looking for emotion when I'm shooting, and being a DSLR, we don't have black and white viewfinders. The picture that comes up on the back of the screen is in colour. It doesn't give you much emotion. So I can tether it in the computer, and outside I can use my iPad and get it tethering there. That helps a little bit, but I still find with things like with DSLRs, getting exposure, you got to take a picture, then take a picture and check it. When proper mirrorless, you can just look through the viewfinder and.
So you class this as proper mirrorless?
Yeah, you can see all the information's in your viewfinder. So
is there any camera that's not proper mirrorless?
Yeah, the Hasselblad.
Which one?
Both of the X.
New ones?
Yeah, both of the X's. So
X2D and X1D.
They've only got. There's nothing in the viewfinder.
So this is why you didn't stay with Hasselblad and you decided to look for a different brand?
Yeah, I tried because they've got the same. Well, the X1D Mark 1 and 2 has got the same sensor as my H650.
Right.
So I'm getting, but I wanted that camera with this camera mated in. So I wanted the viewfinder of this camera. I wanted all to be able to have a black and white in the viewfinder, to be able to have overexposure warnings that I could set where I want them to go off. So I've got mine set to 245, same as what I've got my Hasselblad set in focus back in the studio. So I have a consistency of exposure, so how I get my exposure.
255. So you've got a bit of leeway.
Yeah, I've got about a 5% or a bit less leeway.
On highlights.
On the highlights. And then I still come back a third of a stop under. So if my highlight is clipping on a model, once it clips, I'll come back a third of a stop once I take it off. So that gives me nearly a 8 or 9% headroom to be able to make sure I can recover anything. The Sony, I did go the Sony route. So even before the X's came out, I got the Sony, and I started off with the A7, I think it was S Mark II. So the video camera, because I don't care, the megapixels is all a wank. Megapixels is for camera clubbers and for camera companies. The only way what they can sell to you is megapixels.
Right.
So with that is the things they're trying to sell you is more megapixels, more megapixels. Well, we end up not being able to shoot f16 now, and there's all these problems like storage.
Yeah.
All these other problems that we're losing dynamic range. We're not getting better dynamic range. We're getting it harder to get low noise in low light areas when the ISO becomes a problem.
You need a higher shutter count on like the M11 because of the high megapixel to get a sharp photo.
Sharp photo. So all of those things, I don't get it. I really don't. If I'm a commercial working photographer and I'm happy shooting a 24 megapixel camera, even though my house was a 50 megapixel, but we're talking the sensor's double the size, so I'm still shooting a 25 megapixel.
I'm going to come on to that.
You'll come on to that, right.
The sensor size. The other thing, just while we're on, so you tried Sony, did you try any others?
I've still got Sony.
You still got it?
Yeah, I've still got my Sony A1.
So why did you, if you already had the Sony, what didn't it do?
Well, it did everything for me except give soul.
So no soul?
No soul. It was the most perfect photocopier in the world. So I could put Leica lenses on it.
I was going to say, did you try putting interesting lenses on a Sony?
Yeah, had some of the Leica lenses I had before I bought the Leica. And I've got some beautiful lenses, some of the Zeiss lenses and that, but the camera has the actual...
It's just the sensor, you think?
It's just, yeah.
Or the usability?
No, the usability, like the menu system's terrible, but like I say, with everybody, you've got to learn your camera and move all the menus you need into spots so you can find them. And that's just a camera thing, but it feels all right in my hand and everything. The viewfinder's fine, it's got lots of information in it. They don't have overexposure warning, but they have zebraing, which is doing the same job.
Yeah.
My biggest problem was that I just felt, I don't know, there's no soul.
So it's the pictures?
Yeah, just too perfect.
Too perfect pictures, okay. And did you try Fuji, like GFX? No.
No, people are going to hate me, but I don't like the Fuji.
Did you just not try it, or because you don't, less interested?
Well, I don't like the colour. I know people are going to crucify me. I really don't like the colour. I just don't.
What about like consumer, like Canon or Sony, Canon or Nikon?
I used to shoot Canon before Sony, loved them, but Canon and Nikon was so slow to go mirrorless. It's like, oh, we're not doing this. And then when they finally do, they did what Hasselblad did, put nothing in the viewfinder to help you with exposure. So again, it's a joke. They're building their cameras for AI. They never want you to shoot fully manual.
Right.
And yeah, I've had some rants on YouTube where I told every Nikon and Hasselblad and Canon shooter to send them emails saying, how come the videographers get all these cool shit in their viewfinder and us photographers don't?
Yeah, so Leica's the only one that gives you all the information?
Leica gives me the most out of every camera I've ever owned.
Wow, I didn't know that. As I only know Leica, so it's just like, I like what I know, but I didn't know other cameras are less.
Well, in the video area, I can bring scopes up.
Yeah, on the SL2S.
Yeah. See, on the camera we're filming on now, I've got scopes, but this is a dedicated video camera.
Right.
I'm nearly certain I can't bring up scopes on the A7S III.
For anybody who doesn't know, scopes is a bit like we'd say advanced histogram for video users.
Yeah, it's a histogram that you can, if I move my hand, you can see where my hand is in the histogram. So if you're shooting someone and there's a blown out wall, the histogram's just going to show you a blown out wall. But if you've got a model off to the side in a white wedding gown, you don't know who's blown out, the wall or the wedding gown. With scopes, you can actually see when she moves, oh, she's not blown out, it's just a wall over here. If they're in front of each other, it's a bit hard to tell, but if there's a gap between them, when she moves, you can see her highlight, and you'll see the wall's highlight sitting up here.
So we need, Leica, if you're listening, we need scopes in the next camera, please, for photos.
Even better. So,
please.
Next level, I know this is crazy, and I know it's a learning curve for everybody, but when we put a Ninja, which is like a recorder screen
like a
monitor, when we get one of those, we have these things called false color, which is the next level. And all you want, if I had a button I could just press false color, I can see if my face is in the right zone, because maybe it'll be a grey as face. Slight pink is slightly underexposed on the face, slight green is up. So you just do this, and if you've got your face predominantly in the grey area, you know you've exposed the face perfectly.
Is that what these like good video cameras do? Dedicated video?
Dedicated video cameras and dedicated video monitors have in, and you'll see the video guys, they're forever clicking false colour because it just tells them instantly, you can see that you've got the skin tone sitting in the right part of the picture. Just
for anybody that's going to ask about it, what camera were you shooting on?
Oh, we're
recording?
We're recording on the FX3, the Sony FX3.
Sony FX3. It's big. It's got many, many buttons.
Well, it doesn't take stills. It's a video camera.
Yeah. Is it like a Canon C something?
Yeah, it's like this C, whatever they call it.
That block.
It's that same type of thing, or a red. All of those.
Red. Yeah. Okay.
They're all different valued versions of it. So Sony do the Venice, which is the next one up from this. Well, they got a 9 after this, and the Venice, and then they're super expensive. So
you can get one even after this one.
Oh, there's like 3 above this. Not interested.
Right, just before we move from why Leica, why did you go for full frame and not the medium format Leicas? Because if people don't know, there's a Leica medium format Leica, the S series. Did you try those? They have been discontinued. But if you looked at, did you want a current production one?
No, I looked at one many years ago at Photokina.
So that's more similar to your Hasselblad, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love looking through the viewfinder. I liked all of that, but I didn't feel that I don't know, I like Leica M lenses.
You like, okay, I'm going to come on to lenses. Okay, so before we get on to lenses, why, if you like Leica because of the soul, we say, why SL series and not M cameras? Because a lot of viewers love their Leica M cameras. As a studio photographer, what's the benefits of using an SL series camera, regardless of which model, compared to say an M10R or an M11?
Because I've got highlight alerts in my viewfinder.
That's the main reason?
Focus peaking.
We'll come on to lenses because obviously it's L mount, so you can use more lenses
More
on
lenses.
SL.
Yeah, so the main reason is, again, the mirrorless features. If I haven't got mirrorless features, I might as well just walk around my Hasselblad.
Yeah, okay, so the benefits are mirrorless.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So we've been doing I did a recording for Peter's channel while Peter was testing lenses today. He's doing more like I normally do, but not quite as geeky lens testing. So that'll probably come on your channel on YouTube.
Yeah.
So look out for Peter's take on lenses. But one thing I did notice is we were in a camera shop yesterday and I showed him a few Voigtlander lenses, and you know I love my Voigtlanders, and Peter picked it up and he's like, nah, straight away, and puts it back down again. So why Leica lenses compared to, say, obviously on the SL series, for people that don't know, you've got the L mount lines, so you can choose from Leica SL lenses, you can use Sigma lenses or Lumix lenses,
yep,
or M mount lenses, which we'll get onto. Why are you using Leica lenses?
They feel really good in your hand. The clicks are proper clicks, and I love the rendering.
And I think you said to me about the manual focus rather than focus by wire.
Yeah, I hate focus by wire. Really dislike it because I tend to, I'll be focusing really quick. So I move my hand very quickly, and then once I get it close, I move slow. If you do by focus by wire, you move very quickly, it goes a long way past. Then if you slowly pull back, it takes forever to come back. And yeah,
because you do music videos as well as with your models as well as photos. They're really good if you've not seen them.
But you would have seen how quick I move my hand. And
you mentioned that some lenses can not catch you out, but some lenses you prefer because of the shorter focus throw.
Yeah, the shorter, even though I loved my old Zeiss Otis lenses, they had massive focus throws. They were for really set portrait shots. I never use lenses like that to chase a model that's doing fashion, or what we did in Shade the other day and things like that. I'd never use those lenses. I'd no way known could I chase.
You can't turn it fast enough.
Yeah, well, I think it was nearly 306, might have been even more than that. The Otis lenses, it's sort of like crank, 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 crank. It was really good when you're fully wide open, you're just trying to get that sweet little spot.
Yeah.
But it's more a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And I like to be able to run and gun a bit, be on my feet, move with the model, shooting fully wide open and focusing at the same time.
Because you like the 50 Simlux spherical?
Yep.
Which got a short focus throw.
Short focus throw, really like that. I think that's one. I've got to play with the Noctilux more, but I still think that's the reason I'm not using the Noctilux as much, is because I think Noctilux is a longer focus throw, memory. Yeah. And it's not allowing me to chase as quickly. Yeah,
that makes sense. And then obviously if you're doing video, would it not make more sense to use autofocus lenses?
No, I hate it.
Is it?
Well, I've got Sony gear for that, and I can put my Leica's lenses on it. But the Sony gear I've normally got on gimbals.
Yeah.
I'm using Zeiss Batis autofocus lenses, which are to die for. So I can do.
I guess that's for dedicated. I guess I'm thinking for your creative videos, not say YouTube videos.
No, I use that for some of the creative.
Okay.
So I don't know if you saw the Mika one laying on a chair.
I'm
running up with it. I'm on a gimbal for the whole
manual
video.
Focus?
No, autofocus.
Oh, that's autofocus.
That's autofocus. It's because it's on a gimbal. It's very hard to get your hand on.
Yeah,
unless you put a follow focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then obviously most people will be photographers. So if you're in a studio, would it not make more sense to have autofocus so you can just lay back with your hand on the trigger, on the button, and like no?
Nah.
Okay. Because you're shooting stop down to like f8 anyway, or
no? Manual focus never hunts.
Yeah, I don't like auto either.
Well, I just use it a bit on the Hasselblad, but if I'm shooting at f8, I'm only focusing every 10th or 15th shot.
Do you shoot that on your Leica on a tripod the same as you would a Hasselblad?
Depending if I'm doing portraiture and I'm doing a set, so I like to crop. I like to make my picture finished in the frame.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking through the viewfinder is the finished image.
So like cropping camera.
Cropping camera.
But some people that have seen your work, if I think of your work, I think of like the horizontal crop, where I tend to do like vertical crop. But then, because you do client work, do you do that because historically you then might need to do a vertical crop or a square crop?
Well, it gives,
from the
it gives
original?
them the choice of a cover of a magazine or a 2-page spread for a magazine.
So if ever you do client work, do you shoot horizontal?
I pretty much shoot horizontal,
All horizontal.
all the time. The only time I don't is when I'm shooting cars or motorbikes.
Okay.
I shoot them portrait.
So when you say you crop in camera, you're happy then to have the, I mean, I know because I've seen your cover pictures on your YouTube, you have negative space either side of the model, don't you?
Yeah,
Or
I
on
I tend to shoot middle
yeah,
a lot.
centered.
So that's just, it's a me thing though. It's just it's how I see the world, and like my eyes see landscape.
Right.
And I spend a reasonable amount of my time shooting Hasselblad film.
Yeah.
Well, good luck turning that portrait.
Yeah.
Very hard to look through the viewfinder side on.
Yeah. I found unless you have the prism, it's quite difficult with the waist level finder.
Yeah.
It's like back to front. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So you're happy with your M glass rather than getting Leica SL primes, because people always say that the SLs are like the pinnacle of Leica lens technology because they're bigger, so they're less limited in terms of getting a smaller size. But you say you're more looking for something with a bit more soul. Is that why you use
Well,
that?
I'm after soul, and I'm not looking for edge-to-edge sharpness. I'm not looking for all that. That's what
More like architecture shots, I guess, or landscapes.
it's landscape architectural geeks. Sorry.
No offence to any
No
landscape
offence.
or architectural people.
No, but what I meant, I'm not a pixel peeper. I see myself more as an artist. I never zoom in on a picture to see if it's sharp or not, because you never would see my work like that. My work would be printed. You're not going to walk up to it with a magnifying glass. So why would I do that when I'm looking at my pictures? So I'm not really caring if it's slightly soft or not. It doesn't matter. If the picture is a killer picture, that's all that matters in my eyes.
This is like a learning point for me, and maybe you guys have got the same question. If you're shooting for a client, I'd be scared that they would say, like, want a refund if you shoot the model and it's soft, and they'd be like, their eyes are not even sharp, can I have my money back?
I've never had a client, ever.
No?
Never.
Like, this is
In
a
20
serious
years,
question.
I've never had a client say, that picture's soft.
Right.
Do you got to remember, it's only the photographers who look for this.
Yeah.
The real world doesn't look. The fashion industry doesn't look. I've shown you
Yeah.
so many pictures of in Vogue and that. The fashion industry, the real world does not care. It's only photographers that care.
If you see my videos, you know I like sharp eyes, and so Peter's been educating me that a lot of the famous fashion photos are not pin sharp, which is obvious because in the past it's obviously film anyway. So, okay, that answers that then. So you're happy with the M lenses?
Love the M lenses. I bought a Voigtlander 75 because of you, and I'll be selling it.
But you didn't like it?
That just didn't feel. It didn't feel.
You didn't
good.
like the feel of the lens,
Didn't
or the
feel
look, or
in
both?
my hand, and it was still a bit clinical for my taste. So I've learned how to shoot my 75.
Yeah. This is a 75
That's
Summilux.
The Summilux.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to
1.4.
shoot it to work. If I am in a position it's flaring, I'll just, like I was talking to you before, I'm just going to stick a 90 on and take 2 steps back.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And then big question for probably lots of people that are on the fence of getting into, say, SLs in particular. I've got the original SL. Peter's got the SL2S on the table, but you've also got the SL2, haven't you?
Yes.
Which one do you use the most, and why have you got both?
I was loaned both of them by Leica.
In Australia?
In Australia, I did a lot of testing. I wanted to buy the 2, and I bought the SL.
You wanted to buy the SL2S
2S. Sorry, the S, and I bought the 2.
first because of the high megapixel?
No, it wasn't a megapixel. That's why I wanted to buy the S.
Yeah, okay. Oh, you wanted less megapixels?
I wanted less megapixel, but when I did my tests, I looked really carefully at the rendering of the midtones.
Right.
And I could see something, and I think I preferred one. And that's why I picked the one I picked. It was so tiny, but it was like,
Do you notice the difference in colours? Because some of you guys have told me that
Yeah,
you prefer the colours of the S over the SL2.
yeah, that was the other thing. I actually preferred the colours more on the SL2,
2, not the S.
not the S. But I don't shoot
Interesting.
colour.
Yeah. We're both
So
black and white.
that was a dumb thing for me to even look at. And then I wanted to do more video work, and I got in trouble a couple of times with the SL2 with ISO and getting too much noise in the video. So
Is that noticeably better?
Oh, heaps better.
Because it's a lower megapixel, so it's better anyway.
Oh, so much better. Well, I showed you the 1600 shots. I actually, on my Hasselblad, I like shooting natural light at 800 ISO because I get this emulsiony feel.
Yeah.
And I get the same emulsiony feel on this camera at 16 to 3200.
So top tip, if you've got the SL2S, try shooting it. If you like shooting portraits in black and white, the same as us, just try shooting it at ISO 1600 and you get like a bit of a filmic emulsion.
Very much an emulsiony. It doesn't feel like grain, it feels more like a film and emulsion.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
I was tempted to try and try it on mine. I'd guess it'd be lower on the older SL because of the older technology, maybe 800, but I'll have to try it.
Yeah, if I had my time again, I'd have bought the S.
So you're going to sell your SL2?
At this stage, no.
Keep it like backup?
It'll be backup. It's also the one downside that nobody told me, which I'm pretty annoyed at, is when you do video on this, it goes to APS-C on so many of the modes.
Interesting.
Whereas on the video on the SL2, doesn't go to APS-C, but on this thing, as soon as you go to certain settings, you just go straight to APS-C, and I want a video at 35 or 50. I don't want to have to put a 21 on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, also, the guys in the shop didn't know it, and then they came back with this absolute piece of crap answer that some wanker had told them that it's only because it's 24 megapixel. I said, funny about that. The Sony is like 12 megapixel, and they don't go to APS-C mode, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. So if you had to say 3 things why you'd pick the SL2S over the SL2, as someone that owns both.
ISO.
Better high ISO.
Yep.
Autofocus any different? Not that you use it.
Well, I don't use it. That would be the only thing.
Just the
better and the smaller megapixels.
Image stabilization for your video.
I think they're both
for
the
portraits,
same.
handheld.
I think both cameras have got the same.
Identical.
I haven't noticed a difference. I could be wrong, but I have never noticed a difference. I do know that it's very important if you are, because most of them all my handheld video I'm doing on the Leica is all manual focus. Everything's manual and it's handheld, no gimbal.
Yeah.
But I did know that a trick, make sure you put a lens profile on. So if you don't, your stabilization doesn't work properly.
Interesting.
So I always make sure if I'm videoing, I make sure one of my buttons is actually a profile button.
Right.
So if I click to video, I'll click the profile button and make sure that I've got, at least if I'm shooting 35, that's saying it's a 35.
And that's the same if you're shooting photos. It's still image stabilization.
Well, it still should be
like low light or.
And because I do like shooting down at now, a 40th of a second is like
on your S.
I'm not worried about shooting at that because I'm actually chasing a bit of motion blur in my pictures, and at a 40th of a second, it's pulled my motion out. It's only put the model motion in, which means the rest of everything else is still not blurred. It's only a little bit of and that's what I'm trying to chase. I don't want everything to be blurred. I like that movement of the model, but everything else is not moving.
Check out Peter's channel. It's a lot more creative. I tend to do quite static. We've been joking about this over the last 2 weeks. Since we've been on the road together, but I tend to do very static photos where Peter's a bit more creative and gets the model moving, and then, as he says, drags the shutter or a slower shutter to get the motion blur. So see if you enjoy that kind of stuff. It might inspire you to do something a bit different. So that's the difference, SL2S versus SL2. Do you, just on that point, going from Hasselblad, do you not miss the higher megapixels?
No.
So like the SL2 is not a happy middle ground between Hasselblad, H6, no? Nothing?
No,
if you have to crop in or...
I don't have to crop in much, but if I need to make a portrait, I'm cutting half of the picture out. But I only needed 6 megapixels for cover a magazine.
So just talk a bit about that then. So when you did you say you did Vogue inside or Vogue cover?
No, I have never done a cover, but I've done plenty of high-end fashion magazines covers.
Yeah, and how many megapixels?
They only need 6.
Even today?
Yeah.
I just assumed they'd need like 50
Even when they do their posters and that, they still, like, when I first went digital working for a lifestyle magazine group, and they had like 27 magazines under, I chased covers all the time. And I was only shooting a 6 megapixel Canon back then. And I was pulling covers without a problem. I was still blowing up posters to put into news agencies. And a lot of people, there's so many really, really good bits of software now that can take your picture up. So instead of shooting everything at 50 megapixel, clogging everything up, if you shot at 20 megapixel and then run, even in Lightroom and Photoshop, you can come up 4 times the size and will not see any difference if you do it properly.
What's the software that a common one that people use?
Gigapixel.
Gigapixel. If you want to check it out and don't know about it.
You've got to, with all these programs, you need to watch 5 to 10 YouTube videos to find the right one. And when you learn to use it properly, I pulled a 12 megapixel picture up to 48 megapixel picture, and you could not see a single bit difference pixel peeping.
I think there's talk about pixels. People with the M11 seem to use the 36 megapixel setting or even 18 megapixel because they're getting more usable images than using 60. So you're paying for a 60 megapixel camera and then only using half the megapixels.
I think it was clever with what they did with that. I thought that was very clever.
Options.
Giving you 3 options without actually cropping, it's actually just bulking the
resolution.
Yeah, bulking the resolution together, which is really clever. I don't know if that's still fixed the f16 problem.
In terms of diffraction?
Yeah, because you've still got a tiny little hole. Now you just add 4 tiny little holes together to get the resolution down.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to fix that. I'd much rather have, for me, this camera here, perfect, 24 megapixel.
24. So you can have the SL2S, just while we're on it, which is the current model, 24 megapixels with image stabilization, better high ISO and a few other features. We can have the original SL, which is now pretty good value, and it's also 24 megapixels but has less of the extra features. Okay, near finished. So megapixels, because if anyone's seen Peter's videos, he shoots tethered a lot when he's shooting in the studio. And I know from coming from like M cameras, they're not very tether friendly. So how are you getting on with trying to tether your Leica in the studio?
It was perfect.
With this one or both?
Both. Absolutely perfect.
SL2 and SL2S.
Well, the first time I started tethering, I couldn't believe how flawless it was.
Tethered into Lightroom?
Tethering to Lightroom.
And now?
Lightroom and Apple have changed something, and now it crashes every time I plug it in. It cannot tether. So yeah, I'll be screaming when I get back from this trip. Yeah, sorry, Leica Australia, you got to get a few friggin' messages. I had someone in Barcelona trying to help me, and they just think I'm an idiot. And you go, oh, it might be a tether. I said, I've been doing this for now a month. I've tried every combination. I've been tethering for 20 years. I know all the tricks of what goes wrong, what sets things off. I've closed down every program, all my software's up to date. Did all the things you're going to tell me to do. So don't go through and go, okay, the table, what software version, all of that. And I said, I'm on the latest software version. He come back, yeah, we're not having a problem. I said, what version are you on? Oh, we're on. I said, you're not on the latest software version.
If you're having problems tethering your Leica, comment below and maybe someone knows the solution. But I'm guessing it's firmware.
I think it happened around about the time Apple did a fairly major upgrade, and then very soon after Lightroom did it, and then the problem happened.
That makes sense. This was a longer video, so I'll split it into 2 parts. Part 2 coming soon. Thanks as always to my amazing patrons. See you on the next video.